William, your videographer from Two Hats Publishing. Welcome to the College of Complexes, being held at Barbeck's Restaurant at 8949 Garland Road, Dallas, Texas. Gently embracing the east side of White Rock Lake. When I entered, I was greeted like coming home to Grandma's house, warm and friendly. When visiting the Barbeck's Restaurant, tell them you want your reservations for the next College of Complex class.
Welcome to the College of Complexes. This is our 251st meeting since we started, and when was it? February of 2009. Actually, this started in Chicago in 1951 for the purpose of solving all the world's problems. They're still working at it. We put a speaker on every week. We require our speakers to take a position on an issue or express a point of view. They have to be for or against something, they don't care what it is. We give them an hour to make a presentation. They go over an hour, we cut them off. If anybody interrupts the speaker, remind the interrupter. We only listen to one fool at a time. That's one of our rules. Then we have questions and answers, not speeches from the audience. And then we have remarks, rebuttals. Everybody in this audience that wants to gets 5 minutes at the podium. The podium will be here then. And to respond to what the speaker said, for or against. And our speaker gets to comment and close the meeting. That's how it works. But before we put on our speakers, are there any announcements? Now's the time for announcements. Anyone have any announcements? Susie, you got any announcements? Someone usually has an Susie has an announcement. I knew it. She's coming up here. She's coming here. She is. Here we go. You have an announcement.
Hi, everybody. I don't want to poach from next week's meeting. No, I'm sorry, the week after next. There's no meeting next week. The week after next, the Dallas County East Democrats will be having our Christmas/holiday party out at Isla Medora Restaurant in Rockwall, off Bass Pro Drive, and that starts at 7 o'clock. Dinner is on your own. We've adopted a family with 5 young children, ranging in age from 3 months to 12 years old. And that's all posted on Facebook. If you haven't seen daced.org, take a look. Dallas County East Democrats. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Any other announcements? Anybody? Jim, you got announcements?
Well, I'll just make a brief one tonight, as I sometimes do, and that is thanks for coming out, particularly on a rather nasty and attractive evening. It's not a great one to be out on the streets, and I hope you all have a safe trip home tonight after leaving here. Just a brief reminder for those of you who aren't thinking about it tonight, and that is we really appreciate Barbeck's hospitality in giving us the room. They don't charge us a room charge, so we don't have to charge a high fee for everybody to walk in the door, which is nice. The thing that we have agreed to do with them, which is very reasonable, is that we should all buy some food off the menu, and that we should be generous with our server who comes in here and serves a group of us all together at one time and stays cheerful in doing it. We appreciate that. Nothing like having to eat good food and with a crabby server looking at you, you know. So that's a delight. So thanks again for all of you coming out. If you do run into any of our absent cohorts during the next few days, please do remind them that we won't be meeting on the Saturday there in Thanksgiving weekend. So many people have families in from out of town, or they'll be going out of town to visit folks, that it's a good time for us to take a break off, and then we'll reconvene on the following Saturday if you don't sneak off to Mesquite to do the party, right? But thanks again for coming. That's all my brief comments. So Tom, carry it on, brother.
Thank you. Okay, on December 6th, we have Beyond a Fair Living Wage. That's Catherine Savers McGovern. She's a retired assistant attorney, United States Attorney, recent Dallas nominee to U.S. Congress, District 32, current practice of McGovern Law Office since April 2011. She's going to discuss whether, given the Texas legislature's dysfunction in establishing a fair minimum wage, Texas voters should pass a constitutional amendment establishing a minimum wage of $12 an hour with annual adjustments based on COLA. That ought to be interesting. On December 13th, we have Stephen Butler. He's going to talk about his topic is why the Republican Party is bad both for America and the world. That ought to be interesting. He'll give his opinions, and you'll be able to. It should be a good meeting. Anyway, that's what's coming up. But before we go any further, tonight we have Robert Pitre. He's an entrepreneur and social activist. He's going to discuss and show how the economic embargo of the inner cities in America is a major cause of crime, drugs, unemployment, hopelessness, and blighted conditions. He will also show how the Dallas Economic Embargo was used adversely in the past and present, and how the wealthy in the city of Dallas receive a majority of tax dollars to their benefit. Robert's company is one of the largest landowners in the city of Dallas with 122 acres plus, and he started his business with $300 in 1976. He is prepared to back up anything said in his presentation. So without further ado, please give a very, very warm welcome to Robert Pitre.
Thank you. My name is Robert Pitre. I'm a businessman in the city of Dallas. Started my business in 1976. Car business, went into car business. I bought a car for $272 and had $28 operating capital. And most people counted me out and said I wouldn't be successful. So I'm still in business, and right now I'm one of the largest landowners in the city of Dallas. But I want to start off with a video presentation of some of the things that we do out at my facility, Skyline Ranch. Skyline Ranch is a 90-acre facility in Oak Cliff, right off Interstate 20 on Wheatland Road. I grew up in the projects of Beaumont, Texas. And I felt a need after my success that I should be able to reach back and help young people, and especially African-American boys, knowing what they're going through and the difficulties of being successful. So we want to just start with the video, Doc, kind of.
The plight of inner-city African-American males is very grim. From a very young age, many of these young men are faced with extremely difficult situations. Robert Pitre of Dallas, Texas, has made it his daily mission to refresh the neighborhood by providing support and offering hope to troubled youth. Led by Robert Pitre himself, the Pitre Vision is a non-profit organization that is dedicated to providing quality programming and initiatives that serve to educate, encourage, and empower young African-American males in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and beyond.
When I grew up, they didn't have the negative forces that young people have to deal with now. When you're dealing with drugs and crime and hopelessness in a blighted community. So it's important that the community support Life Guide for America. And it's important for young people to see and understand how important making the right choice is in their lives.
In order to address the poor choices that many youth and adults make, Robert Pitre created the Life Guide for America map to show how right and wrong decisions can lead to a path of destruction or success. As a result, individuals can be more conscious about the decisions they are about to make and hopefully choose the right path.
My goal is to distribute the Life Guide for America map around the United States and the world. This map is being used as a teaching tool in schools, juvenile facilities, churches, community organizations. Pitre Vision has afforded us the opportunity to see the Life Guide map at work. Here's some of the young men that could tell you how to change their life.
Pitre Vision and Mr. Robert and the rest of the Pitre Vision boys, we kind of bonded together like a family, and we basically showed each other, this is the right path that we need to be on to avoid the drugs and the gangs.
My major is pre-med biology with a minor in chemistry, and I've come a long way. Pitre Vision has been an awesome influence, not only in my life, but plenty of African Americans throughout the city who come from where we come from. I'm from Oak Cliff, And a lot of the friends that I have, we wouldn't strive as far as we have gone if it wasn't for people like Mr. Pitre and Mrs. Pitre and the people, the kind of people that they bring around us when we were younger.
His vision has influenced my life because he helped me get out the street and become the person I am today. I actually teach 3rd grade now. So I went from just running the street to doing something positive.
The Life Guide for America map is very important because it can provide guidance for those in schools, colleges, courtrooms, and even jail facilities. The Pitre Vision organization continues to refresh the community by providing positive outlets for young boys. Recently, Life Guide for America conference, where many youth were exposed to refreshing workshops, keynote speakers, and roundtable discussions focusing specifically on leadership issues affecting the African American males.
Skyline Ranch is our 90-acre facility where we have horses and fishing ponds, swimming pools, and a host of activities to entice the youth to participate. Once they're here, we make sure they're fed. Both physically, we feed them, and then mentally, we feed them.
NBA star and New Jersey Nets player Devin Harris stopped by the conference to share his experiences and refreshing ideas to encourage the boys to choose the right paths for success.
I think programs like the one we're visiting today are tremendous for kids to be able to show them, teach them the path, and allow them to follow it as they grow older.
As you can see, we have helped thousands of youth in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Our goal is to take Life Guide for America nationwide.
We cannot do it without your help. They are our future. Thank you for watching.
To learn more about how you can support or donate to the Pitre Vision Life Guide for America project, call 214-421-3029 or send an email to pitre@lifeguideforamerica.com.
So that's one of our boys' conferences that we have. We've been able to change the lives of many young people. And what is happening right now in America with the economic embargo, it affects many lives of young people. And for some reason, I don't see why society should not understand the problems that they're creating by economically keeping communities in a position where there's no jobs. They put drugs in the community that makes the community blighted. And what's happening all over America, it's all about land. It's kind of what the Indians, when you look at what the Indians went through, it was all about that land. And the Indians was given blankets with smallpox that many Indians died and their children. Then they were given guns to shoot each other, rot gut liquor, and it destroyed the Indian race. Like I was talking earlier to someone here, and we were talking about the effects of what happened to the Indians, and they occupied America. They was sent to the reservation, and it's happening all over right now in America. When you look at the inner city, when you look at these young people that was on the video, I mean, we have thousands of children that come through the ranch. Like one of the gentlemen was a manager of Walgreens. They teach in school. They're doing things productive. And this is what we try to make them understand. If you take a little kid out of Highland Park and you take them and put them in this environment here, this brown side, and you take them at an age of maybe 8 years old, and then you take a little kid from, say, South Dallas at 8 years old, same age, and you put him in that home in Highland Park, and you go back and look at these two kids 4 years later, you would see who would be at risk, and it would be the young kid that came from Highland Park and went into this environment. And this is by design. If you believe it or not, it's by design. And what's happening right now in South Dallas, they're taking the land around Fair Park. I was at a meeting just the other day, and the proposal to privatize Fair Park is that in the next bond program, they want to put $487 million in the bond program to renovate Fair Park. And they want to start a nonprofit and put them in the middle between the power structure and the people that run Fair Park. And they want to give them $15 million a year. And my question to the gentleman that was doing the presentation, well, if the taxpayers pay for the $487 million and the nonprofit get $15 million every year, who gonna get the profits from the Fair Park? He said, well, you got to go ask somebody over here at the park board. So it's a lot of conspiracies that go on in this city. You know, we was talking earlier about Grow South. Grow South, Grow South is about getting possession of the land in southern Dallas. And see, the mayor and his group, yeah, he has a group with money. But see, when you look at my ranch, Skyline Ranch, now tell me what you think about this. Skyline Ranch is 90 acres. It's adjacent to the new UNT campus. DART is building a $250 million rail line, blue line, that's gonna stop on the backside of my ranch. Now, what the city of Dallas has done, they're gonna put DART on a septic tank system. When it's completed in 2016, DART would be on a septic tank system. Do you know why? The reason why, because if they ran the sewer line to the DART station, then the black landowners that own land around the DART station would be able to develop their property. Now, if any of you all have been in Oak Cliff, and you know where UNT is, it's University Hills. It used to be Houston School Road. Now, it was a 2-lane road. What happened, they widened in the bond in 2000, in the 2004 bond program, they put $5 million in it to widen the road. But while they were getting ready to widen the road, I said, but don't you know that there's no sewer in the road? The city of Dallas say, don't worry about that. We don't care nothing about that. Do you know the reason why? You know why they didn't put the sewer in the road? Because that land was owned by blacks, that whole strip. Now the mayor's Grow South is talking about bringing his investors over there where they could buy our land for little or nothing. They're trying to keep the values down. See, when you economically deprive a community of the lack of development. Now, when you look at South Dallas, the children that grow up in South Dallas, banks don't loan money to black businesses. Now, I have 122 acres of land in the city of Dallas. I mean, in the city. I'm not in the country. You know what I'm saying? You could see the full skyline of Dallas from my property. Now, I didn't sell no drugs, steal or rob to get this land. You know, I worked, and I started with $300. I've seen all the banks in the state of Texas in the 80s go out of business. They wouldn't loan me no money and no other blacks money. All of them went out. All the savings and loans, all of them went out of business. The Republic banks, the InterFirst banks, all these banks went out of business, but they didn't loan no money. They still don't loan money to black business. Now, many of you all might say, well, you know, we'll go to the SBA. The SBA is set up to loan money to small business. And don't y'all get money from the SBA? 3% of the 100% of loans that made by the SBA go to black people. 97 go to others. See, that's the reality of it. When you look at young people, it's 2 million 300,000 people in jail, in prisons. 1 million of them is black. All over America. When you don't have the opportunity to work and create jobs and development in your community, it's going to become blighted. It's going to be blighted. Now, what's happening all over America, without money being flowing through the community, it's just like if you blood flowing through your veins and your heart is pumping and blood stop flowing through your veins and your heart stop pumping, you're going to die. See? And this is what the community, this is what they're doing. They're killing these communities all over America. Dallas and Chicago is two of the worst cities in America for the economic embargo. When you look at, and I told everybody, my brother-in-law that live in Chicago, I said, man, what's getting ready to happen, it's going to destroy this city. And he said, what do you mean? I said, the federal government is going to give $50 million HUD to the city of Chicago to give out vouchers for people that live in those high-rise projects. Greenick Greens, Robert Taylor Homes, and they're going to move all of those people out. And they did. And right now, they didn't have no type of programs for these people. They had lived in these high rises for generations. Economically, they've been out of the system. No opportunities, zero opportunities, drugs, crime, hopelessness. And that's by design. And a lot of people say, well, but that don't sound right there. These people don't do like that. Society's like that. They do it. America gives $37 billion a year to other countries in foreign aid. They give no foreign aid, no kind of aid to the inner cities of America. See, if you put jobs in these communities, I remember when in the 80s when the economy, right after George Bush, when people lost their jobs and having all these problems, white people start burning up their houses before they lose them that had equity. Burning up their cars to get money to survive. Letting people steal their boats before they go back. See, all these things are happening when you deprive a human being of the opportunity to be successful. Now, it may sound that, okay, well, you Ms. Pitre, you pretty fortunate because you're in a city like Dallas, Texas, and you have 122 acres of land. You've been successful. I fight every day in dealing with racism, the lack of opportunity. My bank is outside of Dallas, and my bank is like a payday lender. They loan money with high interest rates. But see, they didn't have a clue that I would develop my property to what it is today. And now they see, ooh, a DART station there, a university there. He got 3,886,000 square feet. Ooh, at $10 a foot, that's $38 million. Then he also, on that same note, got 26 acres on Interstate 45 that's worth $4 or $5 a foot. Man, and all he owes us is $1.6 million, and we got $10 million worth of collateral. Let's trip him. Yeah, we need that. We could be 10 days late on our note, and these people threatening to foreclose on us. See, and that's part of what you go through out here. And people got to understand. See, I see these young children with smart, brilliant, but the environment that they're in, they can't see or understand no more than where they are. Daddy in the penitentiary,
because they got the system set up to catch him at the first thing he do. The system is there to catch you. See, and these kids don't have a father in their life. Let me ask you something. How many of you all grew up with a father in your life? Raise your hand. Okay. A father. Mother and father together when you grew up. Okay. The ones that grew up with a father in their life, I could just reverse it and say mother. How many of y'all grew up with a mother? That's because it's majority women. Would you be the woman that you are today if you didn't have your mother in your life? Raise your hand. Yeah, if you didn't have you. Right. See, in the inner cities of America, young children is growing up in single-parent home by design. And then if you go back and you look at the history of black people in slavery, they sold off the fathers. They sold off the children. But people say, oh, but that happened in the past. We don't want to hear nothing about the past. And if you're being discriminated against, all you have to do is pull yourself up by your bootstrap. That's some junk. That ain't no reality. It ain't easy to pull yourself by your bootstrap when you don't know and you don't have opportunities. I go to schools and I talk to young people, and I talk to them, and let me show you what's so powerful. I've had psychologists, I've had professors with doctor's degrees in social science to say to me, how was you able to create a visual of life in one vision? But the most powerful thing that ever been said to me came from two 10-year-olds. Two 10-year-olds. What they said to me, I took them through this map, both sides of this map. And I asked them on the brown side, because that's where they were. They were inner city kids. And I asked them, how many of you all live in a single parent home? Raise your hand. Most of them. How many of you all have friends or family members that dropped out of school? Raise your hand. Most of them. How many of you all have gangs in your schools and in your community? Raise your hand. All of them. How many of y'all have family members that's unemployed? Raise your hand. All of them. How many of y'all have friends or family members that's selfish? Raise your hand. How many of y'all have family members that's on welfare? Raise your hand. How many of y'all have drugs in your community? Raise your hand. All of them. How many of y'all have family members and friends that's ignorant? Raise your hand. All of them. How many of y'all have family members in prison? Raise your hand. All of them. They identified with this brown side of the map. Then I took them to the green side, and I said, let me show you something. Positive, each one of these streets is a two-way street that leads to Positive Drive. So what you are on right now is a two-way street. Take Positive Drive, and Positive Drive would take you to the green side. Now, the green side would show you what it takes to get to a productive life. It starts at straight and narrow road, take you to sacrifice lane to spiritual to discipline, discipline to self-esteem, self-esteem to freedom, freedom the education way. Here's ways that you can educate yourself. GED, high school, a term to school, trade school, college, military road. When you graduate and come down Graduate Road to Community Drive, first intersection, Recovery Road. Everyone is recovering from something. Community Drive then take you to Sport Lane, where you have employment, Corporation Drive, Entrepreneurship Way, takes you up to Love Parkway. Love Parkway take you to Family Way. Family Way take you to Legacy Parkway, where the streets are success, understanding, knowledge, principle, morals, character, wisdom, honorable, peaceful, productive life, peace of mind, financial reward, prodigy, opportunities, freedom, investments. Now, When I finished, and I told them about, I went to a juvenile facility, and I was talking to a group of young boys. They were all black. See, the system is not just starting at the penitentiary, it's starting at the juvenile level. I asked the young man, I say, son, look at this map and tell me the roads you went down to get to where you are right now. Young man looked up, he said, well, I made the wrong choice. I came out of a single parent home. I dropped out of school. I was in a gang. I was unemployed. I was selfish. I wanted easy money. I started dealing with drugs, and that's how I got here. And he scratched his head and he said, well, Mr. Pitre, this map is telling me where I was headed. I said, right. But right now, son, you're on prison road. As you go up prison road, you go through the jails and the courts. If you continue, you may get probation. If you continue, you go to time drive and you go in the criminal justice system. Right now, incarcerated is 2,300,000 plus. Probation, 4,100,000 plus. Parole, 788,000 plus. So you have 7 million plus people in that system on a daily basis. You got thieves, gangsters, rapists, drug dealers, crack users, and innocent. If you're in this environment here, you either go one-way drive to the cemetery or to the penitentiary. Humans in cages, free room and board with TV, no smoking, visitors on the weekend, money on the books, must be willing to protect your manhood or womanhood, can't have protection. 95% of the people that go in prison come out down parole road. You have an option to take parole road to Positive Drive, go to the green side of the map. 70% of the people that come off of parole road to go back into this environment in 3 years or less, they're back in prison. Back in prison. So when I ask these young people, I say, look, how many of you all want to grow up on this brown side? Raise your hand. Not one hand, not one. They went to, no. I say, how many want to live your life on the green side? Raise your hand. All of them. I want to be on the green side. I want to be on the green side. And this is where they can be. But see, when you're dealing with the economic embargo and racism, see, a lot of people say, oh man, racism ain't nothing. Racism ain't nothing. Racism can affect anyone that's being discriminated against. And I ain't talking about somebody called you no honky or no redneck. I'm talking about somebody that's stopping you from progressing. My little boy, 7 years old, I taught him how to play chess. We sent him out to University Park in one of these tournaments. He was just beginning. He wasn't rated. He didn't have no rating. So in these tournaments, they put the one that's rated the highest to wipe out the ones with no rating. I taught my son a 4-move chess mate. The little rich kid that he was playing, my son put the 4-move chess mate on him, and he was the #1 player in the tournament. But what you think happened? They said, oh, wait a minute, hold up, he made a mistake. Got to start this game all over. My son said, oh, no, I won. I see, I'm looking over my son. He said, oh, no, I won. Telling the Jerry. Jerry told him, say, son, told the little boy from University Park, say, if you do that again, you lose. Come on, start it. And he just wiped my little son out because he didn't know. And my son, the whole deal, but daddy, oh, I won, daddy, I won. I said, yes, son, but just welcome to racism. Just welcome. You understand? And he understands. You understand? And when you look at, see, this deal is easy to sit back and say that, oh, I could overcome anything. I could pull myself up by the bootstraps. Oh, that's some junk. You understand? But what we have to do, but going back to these young children, when I asked them about the green side, how many of you all want to live your life on the green side? I mean, they jump with joy. I want to be on the green side. I want to be on the green side. I want to be on the green side. So it was a little girl on the front row, and she was just smiling. And I asked her, I said, young lady, tell me why you want to be on the green side. She said, I never knew until the day what side I was on or what side I want to be on. But the reason why I want to be on the green side, because everybody in my family is on the brown side. Asked the little boy. He was sitting right next to him. God put the little boy right next to him. I asked him, I said, son, tell me why you want to be on the green side. He put in that college. He said, I want to go to college. I want to go to college. Then he put in that prison. I don't want to go to prison because my dad and both of my uncles in prison. I don't want to go to prison. See, it's a trap. It's traps out there. And I try to make these young people understand that don't go break the law no matter what. But see, when the dope man come and the dope dealer come along and you ain't having no money and the dope dealer showing success and nobody else is showing success, and the dope dealer say, well, all I need you to do is go take this over there. Go make this little money over here. You could do this and you could be successful, and this little boy making money. See, when I grew up, I had a job. When I was 13 years old, I was a subcontractor for Gulf Oil Company. I went every Saturday and washed 3 tanker trucks. And then after I left there, I went to Mr. Tom's service station and pumped gas all day. At the end of the day, Mr. Tom gave me $10. Gulf Oil Company paid him $25 per truck. Mr. Tom made $75. He gave me $10. He worked me all day. When I asked young people about was Mr. Tom fair with me, all of them say, oh no, Mr. Tom wasn't fair with you. He made $75. He gave you 10. He made $65 and he didn't do nothing. I say, but Mr. Tom gave me the opportunity to learn how to work. See, and the $10 when I got home, I gave my mother $5 and I kept $5. I was the richest kid in the projects. I had money every week. See, and we didn't have drugs and crime when I grew up. See, we didn't have that. The ones that was committing the crime in my hometown was the whites. They're the ones that was going to jail for robbing and stealing. But the people around me, we didn't steal. We grew up with principle, knowing that we didn't have to steal. We had to work for ours. And that's what we done. My mother almost knocked me down. And she got real mad with me because I always been a little outspoken. And my mother worked for a very wealthy white family. The family that my mother worked for, the man was a Navy captain. And we lived in Beaumont, Texas, and what he would do, he would go out to the port and bring in ships that's coming into the port of Beaumont, and they paid him $500 every ship that he brought in. So he would go out 4 or 5 times a week, and in the 60s, he making $2,500 a week. I mean, he was getting rich. But they paid my mother $18 a week. So I'm telling my mother one day, I said, Mama, wait a minute, Mama, now why would you, these people ain't being fair with you. They ain't been fair with you. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, they gave you $18 a week, and Mr. Ellis is making all this money. She said, I said, well, why you stay there, Mama? She said, well, if I left, Miss Ellis wouldn't take care of her mama. I said, what do you mean? Well, boy, leave that alone. And, my mother was tough. Leave that alone. But see, she knew that Miss Ellis wasn't going to take care of her mama because my mother was taking care of Miss Ellis' mother every day. See, and I learned later on in life what her reason. But at that time, I didn't understand that. You don't care nothing about your mama. Why are you going to care about her mama? But my mama corrected me. So we got to understand that the playing field is not fair. And the playing field has never been fair. When you look at, when you go back into history, when the slave owners, they didn't have to pay for labor. Just like if you had a business and you didn't have to pay your employees how much money you could make. See, and then they had them out there from sun up to sundown, getting rich, and you ain't got to give them nothing. Then you take them and sell the children off, make a little money off the children. You just do anything you want to do. You go rape the little girls and do whatever you want, and they done it. See, you got to understand, and people tell me all the time, well, see, y'all black people, y'all got to forget about slavery and all that. It's a new day and a new time. Forget about the effects of what slavery done to your people. You know, but that ain't no reality. You don't want to forget your history. You know, and so we got to reach back and say, you know, I don't care nothing about your nationality. We human beings. Let's help each other. Let's work together. Let's make a difference. We got children out there that need knowledge. You understand? And we got to help these children. And I think that this is how God has blessed me to be in this position. Now I'm gonna tell you how I came about to own a ranch. When I was 12 years old, a friend of mine, brother, was a foreman for a wealthy white family in Beaumont called the Feelings, the Feeling Coffee Company. And my brother's family, my friend's family, was having a family reunion. And they invited me, and I was a little tough kid in projects. I wasn't bad, but I was tough. My father died when I was 5 years old. Nobody gave me therapy. Nobody told me about death. And I just was angry. I grew angry. And I would say, as a 5-year-old, in trying to understand life and losing your father, I was saying, well, if everybody else died, what's going to happen to me? I started thinking selfish. You know, my father and I, but what about is everybody else in the world die? Who going to be here with me? So it made me tough. It made me tough. And, you know, I was real tough. So I ride wild horses. I jump off a building, the roof, or whatever, you know, if that run through my mind. So we went out to this ranch and having a family reunion, and it was a 150-acre ranch. And all the big bulls out there, Bremer bulls, and my friend brother, they was trying to catch these horses in the field. And they had a bucket of feed, and they were shaking it. But the horses was out eating that coastal grass. And they had saddled up one little Welsh pony. And I just said, wait a minute. That ain't making no sense what they doing. Let me go out here and let me just go get on that horse, and I'll ride him down the fence line, and I go out there and round up all the horses. And that's what I done. And when I round them up, they looked out there and said, this boy done lost his mind out there with those bulls. And boy, the ladies was mad at me, and they were just frowning, but I round them all up. But the man that owned the ranch was in a wheelchair. He was paralyzed. And I round up some wild Welsh ponies. And I don't know if they was punishing me or whatever, but they asked me, could I ride? And they saddled up one of them. And I rode this horse. The first one they saddled up, he was wild. I rode him till he fell on his knees. He just got so tired, and I'm having fun, and he just fell down on his knees. So the man that owned the ranch said, ride it. So when I finished, they asked me that I want to ride the other one. And I said, sure, I'm having fun. You know, I'm having fun. So I rode him till he fell on his knees. And then we go into the ranch house, the big ranch house, and they're grilling steaks. And I said, man. I walked out on this deck, there's a big lake, and I said, oh man, when I get big, I'm gonna give me a ranch like this. I'm gonna get me a ranch just like this. So I go home to my mother, and I tell my mother, I say, Mama, when I get big, I'm gonna get me a ranch, and I'm gonna be rich just like Mr. Phelan, Mr. Tom Reed. She said, son, how do you know that you could do this? And I don't know where this answer came from. I mean, it came from God. I blame it on God. I said, because I know myself. And she said, son, let me tell you something. If you can find yourself, nothing can stop you. And it was like a bell went off in my head, and all I had to do is find myself. Now, the answer, I didn't really know what I was doing as a young kid, but I went out to find myself. And I kept that goal that one day I'm gonna own a ranch. And when the ranch came available, I was keeping horses out there, and FDIC had foreclosed on this ranch, and a developer, and I bought it. And now it's one of the most valuable pieces of property in the city of Dallas. If you look at our website, Skyline Ranch, we have a view of the city of Dallas next to the university, right next to the new Dart station. That's going to be on a septic tank system. You understand? See. And see, when you're talking about that Mayor Grow South junk, that's all about rich folks. Anybody know poor folks? Yeah, he got people lined up. If they could steal the property, he got them lined up to buy it. See, it's $50 billion worth of development right now in Dallas. Dallas has the largest rail system in America. And they trying to get possession of that land. See, and they doing everything they can. I think they're the ones that got my bank saying, if you 10 days late, take it. See, but that ain't gonna happen. See, I just feel, and I won't say this here, and I want to give y'all a compliment. I feel very comfortable in talking to you all. You know, I feel very comfortable in talking to you all. So I don't know if I'm getting close to my hour, but I keep talking. Yeah, I got time. But what we have to do as human beings, we're gonna have to help each other. You know, I help people. I brought the Dallas Auto Auction to Dallas. Now, Dallas Auto Auction now is owned by Manheim. Manheim Corporation is owned by Cox Broadcasting. Now, before it became Manheim, the general manager was a friend of mine. And I want to tell you this story. When I went out to the auction, after I got my license, thinking I'm going to go in there and buy me some cars, the security man told me, he said, well, you can't come in here. I said, what? He said, you can't come in here. I said, why? He said, because you bought a car and didn't pay for it. I said, I ain't never been here before. How am I going to buy something and I ain't never been here? He said, well, you bought a car and didn't pay for it. I went in my pocket, got my driving license out, and I said, let's go to your office. Here's my name. Now show me where I bought a car and didn't pay for it. And they let me in. See? But going back to, I got to know all them folks, because, you know, I ain't finna lay down, and I don't care. I ain't accepting anything. Whoever you are, I ain't finna accept it. So we became friends, and they respected me. So, but every time it rained hard, the cars would flood out right there on Davis. It would flood. And the Grand Prairie police officers would write tickets to car dealers every Wednesday. So one day I was getting in my car, and the police officer was about a block away, and he told me, don't you go nowhere. Don't you go nowhere. I'm going to give you a ticket. And I said, what do you mean? Well, I say, you get tickets up there. Why you want to do? He said, well, I'm going to give you a ticket. I said, well, just give me a ticket then. Give me a ticket and let me go. So he wrote me a little old ticket. So I was in the office with Barry Root, the general manager. And I told Barry, I said, Barry, you need to move this auction. You need to move this auction. He said, what do you mean? I said, you need to move this auction and you need to move it to Dallas. And I said, you need to go up there on Loop 12. There's hundreds of acres of land that's available. And that's where the auction need to be. So we ended our conversation. 2 months later, Barry came to me and he said, Robert, I took your advice. I said, what advice? He said, well, I'm gonna, I put a contract on 105 acres where you told me. I said, oh man, that's good, that's good. He said, but I got a problem. City of Dallas don't want an auction. They don't want an auction. I said, how could the city of Dallas not want an auction? We need jobs in southern Dallas. He said, well, they don't want an auction. It was Councilman Tandy's district. I went to Leo Cheney, Al Liscombe, and Mr. Tandy, and we were able to get the special use permit that the Dallas Auto Auction needed to build an auction. I was talking, and this was in 1991. 92, the auction was complete. 6 months ago, I was out at the auction and talking to Barry Root, because Manheim owned the auction now. And I say, Barry, how much does the auction generate to the economy of Dallas. He said $125 million a year. And he said, you know what else? We do $3.5 billion from this location. See, now, but the city of Dallas don't want me to have sewer, don't want me to have water. Ain't a politician in this city has been able to do the things that I've been able to do in this city. And see, like these kids that we bring out to the ranch, we don't get no support from the city. I take that out of my business. See, and what we have to do is, we losing so many kids. Here's a deal that a lot of people don't want to hear. That right now, you have, how many of y'all was in service? Anybody was in service? Okay. Now, in the Iraq and Afghanistan war, we have lost 7,000 soldiers in those two wars. 7,000 soldiers from 1982 to the present. In the silent war in the inner city of America, we have lost over 100,000 black males in the same period of time. Nobody talking about it. Homicide. See, that's where genocide is coming into play. HIV. 270,000 black people have died since 1982 of AIDS. 49% of all new AIDS cases is black. AIDS is man-made. Man-made. And I could explain that and make you see what's. But in 1980, they gave it to the white homosexual in America. Nobody else got it but the white homosexual. But in Africa, from 1980 to 2011, 34 million Africans died of AIDS. 34 million. They brought it back to America. They brought it all the way back to America. It's 1,200,000 people that they know with HIV. Over 500,000 is black. How many of y'all have heard of the Tuskegee syphilis experiment? From 1932 to 1972, 40 years, the American government had this experience. A blood disease. They gave black men syphilis and didn't tell them and sent them home to their wives. See, just look it up. It's true. And that's where, yeah, and see, that's where AIDS come from. AIDS is man-made. Ebola, you talking about Ebola, they talking about, oh, well, with the epidemic. What about the epidemic of the HIV and the 270,000 black folks that have died? See, all this is by design, genocide. See, and what I'm saying to you, I say it to black people. This is reality. See, until we do something about it. See, and our American government was the one that held the experiment. See, everybody won't be mad at Barack Obama, and I'm mad with him because he didn't do this and that. But what about what George Bush and them did? They robbed America and then went to other countries. They started wars that killed people. They got people that's dead. Their children is dead. But see, we so mad at Barack Obama because he wants health care for poor people. See, America is sick and in trouble. And it ain't gonna get no better if we continue to allow these people to do what they're doing. Here's, I'm gonna tell you about the rich folks. Dallas had a bond, the 2000 last bond program was 2012. It was $642 million in the bond program. I went to all of them and say, hey man, put $7 million in there. You got right at 900 acres around this university. Put $7 million in there. I got an engineering company to give us a cost. Oh, we ain't gonna do that. But they put $328 million in the bond program for infrastructure around Thomas and Hall area, White Rock Lake. We can get none of that. See, rich white people are the ones that benefit from city government. Now, you hear about the golf course and equestrian. Them folks, the way you become mayor, in Dallas, the way you become mayor in Dallas is the power structure. And there's always two parties that's running against each other. That's a power structure and some white group to say, hey, we could overthrow the power structure, and that's what we do. But see, what the power structure know, they know that they could go buy black votes from black preachers. See, and see where it's so close, but they could go by the vote. And they go by the vote and they win every time. So Rollins and his group, they came in power, and Rollins and his group say, well, you know what? We're gonna give 450 acres of Dallas, the land that's owned by the city of Dallas, to the rich folks in a $20 million check. So they gave AT&T 450 acres and a $20 million check. Then they come back and say, you know what? We got another 450 acres next to that, so we're gonna find somebody to get that to. So they said, we're gonna do equestrian park. They get him 450 acres and a $10 million check. But the black community can't get nothing. We can't even, we can't get a loan. We can't get nothing. And then you want to say, well, you know, look at them black people, look what they doing. They can't do nothing. They ain't got no chance to do nothing. You can't do nothing. Let me put you in that situation. You can't do nothing. I don't care what your nationality is. You can't do it. It takes mind and money. And see, these rich folks got that money and they don't care nothing about me and you. Because see, if you poor, and you white, you in trouble too. Yeah, you in trouble too. Your children, grandchildren, all of them in trouble too. These folks they don't care. It's about the power. You know, if I got the cake, I give anybody I want a slice. And I don't like you because you poor. I don't like you because you black. You know, they got all kind of categories. See, and what we have to do, we got to wake up. I mean, because the reality is that this country is in trouble, it's sick, it's a very racist country from black folk, but ain't no better place to be. Because I ain't gonna leave here. I ain't going nowhere, man. Yeah, I got those acres, but I got to fight to keep them, though. It ain't, look, I got them folks after me. Now, if I was white, it would be easier because I'd go to any bank in town and get me some money. But see, you can't get no money. Now that's the advantage that y'all have. You go get you some money if you got something, because they say, you rich, you got what? 5 million square feet, 122 acres of land. Shit, well, man, we love you. How much more money you need? What you need? They give it to you. But a black man ain't gonna get it. They ain't gonna get it. See? No, they ain't gonna let me have nothing. And see, if they let me have it, because they know I started with $300, so if I could take $300 and turn it into millions, boy, you'd be dangerous. You'd be telling other black folks and showing them how to do it. And we won't keep black folks down. We won't keep them in the same position that they were in when they was in slavery. We don't want to have nothing. You understand? I know black men that was on the job for 30 years. And they bring another little guy in there, and the owner said, well, we want you to train him. Want you to train him. He teach him his job, And this man is getting ready to retire in 6 months and they fire him. He don't even get no retirement. And he's sitting out there, he ain't got no retirement, he ain't got nothing, no profit sharing. Yeah. See, all of this is just, it's unreal. But see, I see it. I see it every day. I see these little kids that's smart. You know, it's just like, how many, you see the Michael Jordans, the Tiger Woods, LeBron James, and all these folks. What about the little boy that would be better athletes and smarter than them that never pick up a basketball, never pick up a golf club, never pick up a tennis racket? See, and that's by design. It's by design. You know, and we got to, it's our responsibility. Everybody has to be accountable. This is my new deal right now. And I'm telling black folks, everybody got to be accountable. And I'm going to be part of this. You're going to be mad at me because I'm going to make you accountable. If you, when next time when the power structure come over to the black preacher and the black preacher tell the black preacher, say, I need you on the radio talking about vote for me, I'm going to that black preacher and I'm telling you, man, you ain't finna do that. You ain't gonna do that no more. I ain't accepting that. You're gonna be accountable. See, but see, they mad with me right now, like Rollins and all them folks. They mad with me because I'm telling black people and making people understand that, hey, you finna build a Dart station and put it on a septic tank in 2016 and you build a road and wouldn't put sewer in it because blacks own that land. They don't like that. They don't want to hear the truth. And when they see me, they go to hide. See, I ain't scared of them, they scared of me. See, I'm gonna tell the truth. See, I'm gonna tell the truth. So I want to hear some questions now. Come on, give me some questions and let me answer some questions. Well, I ain't finna get in there. No, you can ask me, but I ain't got nothing good to say about what you ask.
Put the other, where's the other one now? Lauren, you gotta put the other mic up. We'll hand this to the people that are out there.
This was live.
Okay, who wants to be first?
Thank you for your presentation.
Well, good.
How do you select the students that participate in your activities at Skyline Ranch? I worked in that community for 21 years at R.L. Thornton School and Zumwalt Middle School.
Okay.
And I'm familiar with the location of the ranch, and I just wonder how you select your students, the people that you help there.
Well, a lot of, it's people that's working in the community that have children, and we open up the doors to Skyline Ranch to many of them. And then, I worked. So we have children that come out and we let them work, feed horses and work. And we give them some money and we just reach out with our conference. We just make it open to the public. But we limit it to what we could do because we don't have the money. We don't have any grants. We don't get grants. I mean, we could use some grants. But the profit, God has blessed us, and I'm still in the car business, and I still make a little money in the car business, and Skyline Ranch is able to produce a good income, and we're growing now. But once we're trying to find a bank right now that would loan us. Because we got one bank, and this old payday loan bank, Bank of DeSoto. Some of y'all might know them, Bank of DeSoto. They got, and we pay double the interest rates right now. You double. So once they have $9 million worth of collateral of what the property is worth now. Now once the Dart station is in there, it's a whole new ball game. But see, banks don't loan money to black people in the city of Dallas. They don't loan money. Now they might, if you have good credit, you might be able to get your car financed. But when you're talking about buying real estate, no, they don't loan you no money for real estate. And if you ain't buying no house that like Oak Cliff, and, when white people own the houses, they finance you then because they benefited, whites. See, but just go and try to get something financed, they ain't gonna do that. Especially commercial real estate. So, I mean, but we gonna get refinanced, and we gonna have some money, and I ain't gonna have to ask something for nothing. And I'm gonna help those children, and I'm gonna have programs, and I'm gonna do something. Because, God brought us this far. He brought us this far. And he didn't bring us this far for us to have to give up.
How does Skyline Ranch make its profits?
We do weddings, banquets, family reunions, concerts. If you look at our website, skylineranch.com, and you can see what we do.
And is it a nonprofit with all of these young boys there?
No, this is just something that we do because of my experiences being like these young boys and growing up.
Are you familiar with the city's grant programs that provide money for that sort of thing?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story about that. They told us that they would let us have $40,000 to do a playground, but our gates would have to be wide open to the public. You know what I told them? You keep your $40,000 grant. And Skyline Ranch is not a non-profit. A lot of people say, make it a non-profit. No, Skyline Ranch is a business. I'm not going to put my 122 acres of land in a non-profit.
How much to the what you would consider racism or stacking the deck by the white people would you attribute to Republican economic policies?
Well, it just seems like the Republicans is just a little more racist than some of the other people. And my grandfather told me some tales about the Republican, about what his daddy told him. But I deal with all people. I don't, as far as the Democrat being better than the Republicans, you got some Democrats that's worse than some of the Republicans. So, I don't judge people by their political base. I judge them by the type of people that they are. And see.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. During your talk, you were talking about when you were growing up and the kids that you grew up with, that you didn't steal and you did the right thing and all that. And you were talking about the kids today where there's gangs and drugs. Where did it go wrong?
The environment changed.
What happened?
The job, see, everybody was working when I grew up.
For nothing.
Right, well, but they were working, but the cost of living was a lot less.
Yeah.
See, after integration, everything went up. See, if y'all coming off in our restaurants and we coming off in our business, we're gonna have some higher prices. Everything went up. But everybody was working because we had jobs in our community. See, but the deal is now, they've taken the jobs out and they're getting possession of the inner cities of America, all over America. When you look at Harlem, Chicago, Dallas, New York, San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, Denver, Colorado, they're taking all the inner cities back. And the way they get possession of it, they put drugs out there, crime. It's kind of like if you had a house that I wanted and your roof was leaking. Is it better for me to loan you some money to fix your roof where you could stay, or hope that nobody let you have no money and your roof cave in and you got to sell it? And see, and that's the game they play.
Gentrification.
Gentrification. All over America. But America is coming back. It's coming. I mean, it's coming. All this stuff that they're doing. See, because here's the deal. Okay, all these little young boys that you see, and they send them to prison. Young black boys, they send them to prison. The cost of incarceration has got up to $42,000 a year. See, and when them little boys come out of prison, the ones that go, they ain't coming back to be no good citizens. They've been taught how to be a better criminal. And they angry, and they mad, and they backed up in the corner. See? Now,
and they've got a record, and they
right, they can't get no job. They can't get no job. And then you know what they give them? They give them $50. No matter how much time you spend, you get $50 when you come out of there. Now, I'm working on a deal right now with the state of Texas that before they get out, release the inmate, that they will get a small version of this map, but we're going to do orientations of inmates released from prison. And we're going to, when they get out with their $50, they're going to get a map like this. And they're going to know how to go home and use it. And they're going to be able to use it for themselves, their children, friends, family members. And we feel that the recidivism rate will change. And this will save the state of Texas hundreds of millions of dollars.
Can I keep asking questions?
Sure.
Do you know Gerald Britt? City
Yes,
Square?
yes, yes.
Do you like what he's doing?
Yes, in it, yeah. He's doing good.
Okay.
Somebody asked me some hard questions or something. I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay. Personally, what I see right now is in the city of Dallas, in the state of Texas, and in our country, we're fast approaching a tipping point.
Right.
Where living conditions for most people are getting to be unacceptable.
Right.
And we're not seeing much hope. We're getting close to that, I mean, not close, but the same kind of mindset they had in Egypt when they rose up.
Right.
I would like to see everybody rise up before we get as bad off as Egypt or Syria.
Right.
How can we form political alliances with, let's just start with the city of Dallas, to say we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore.
Right.
I look at the elections coming up, and several people in the city are feeling like we have to do something this election. If we don't do something this election, we may never be able to do it again. Do you have some ideas about how we could join forces?
Yes. We need to come together because this city works for the power structure. Now, okay, city of Dallas invested, well, they have a bridge that stops at the front door of West Dallas that costs $182 million. Now, if they'd have put that $182 million in that community, just think of the difference it would have made. Who cares about an old bridge over the nasty Trinity River?
Who cares about? Who cares about?
They already had a bridge
and a championship golf course.
Right. Yeah. See, and then what is that, Hyde Park, $52 million. Yeah. Over the Woodall Rogers Freeway.
Clyde Warren.
What is it?
Clyde Warren.
Oh yeah, yeah, that kind of stuff. See, they're investing in material values and not in human beings. See.
Well, and what I've seen too is that most of these big projects, the money that goes into developing them doesn't stay in Dallas at all. The people who are in charge are not even Dallasites.
Right.
And I mean, that's my biggest thing is if we would just stop giving all of our city money, our taxpayer money, to people who don't live here, Dallas might get a lot better.
Right. See, we got to take the control of the city back. See, and the only way that we're going to be able to do that is come together, because the power structure is who makes all the money, who run this city, and we allow them to take control. Say, this next election, everybody in here need to be involved. Yes. Everybody need to be involved. And I would like to establish a relationship with you all right now, because I would like to do this at Skyline Ranch and invite people out. And let's get something started, and let's make a difference. See, because this ain't just no black issue. We're dealing with human issues. Okay.
Okay, so my question revolves around the amazing things that I'm seeing with the Moral Mondays movement in, North Carolina, and Reverend Barber bringing people together from all walks of life. I'm wondering if this is something that you could see in your vision of making a change here in this state. We desperately need something to change in Texas, not just in Dallas, in Texas.
Right. I have an issue that you all could help me with. Now, here's the issue, and it may be something that you're interested in, but here's the issue. Okay, in 2005, I was talking to a young man that was released from prison. And we hired him because I knew him when he was a little boy. And he was a track star. He was the fastest in 1991. He was the #1 track person that runs 100 meters. He's still, the record is still there. And he went to prison. And when he came out, I was talking to him, and he was telling me, he said, you know what? He said, that HIV in prison, man, it's epidemic. And he said they know that the ones that's taking this little white pill down there is the one that has HIV, AIDS. And he says, and I said, well, when they come out, what's happening? He said, just come out. So I was talking to my grandmother, and she's deceased now. She's 94 years old. And I said, Grandma, you know that it's men leaving prison with AIDS, and there's nobody doing nothing about it. And she said, I want you to do something about it. She said, women need to know. And I said, okay. So I went to one state representative, and she told me, she said, well, the inmates go through enough already. They don't need to be going through all this. Okay, so I went to Yvonne Davis, state representative. She said, Pitre, your grandmother's right. We need to do something about this. Your grandmother's right. So she said, what I'm going to do in January, when the House meets, I want you to come and testify. So when it went to committee, me and a friend of mine, about 4 of us went up for committee. And we're talking to people with the state of Texas, and we're saying that inmates released from prison need to be tested. And the gentleman from the state of Texas said, oh, inmates are already tested. They tested when they come in. I say, but what about when they come out? Because they in prison, many of them is having these homosexual relationships. What about when they come out? He says, well, they just, it would cost too much. I said, well, what does it cost to test the inmate? He said, $5.25. I said, what? I say, so $10.50 you could test them coming in and out. So we passed committee, went to the House, approved, got to the Senate, approved, got to the governor's desk, Rick Perry's desk, and they said, well, the governor's not going to sign that. I said, why? Because it could be liability on the state. He's not going to sign it. And so I went to some of the black Republicans, and I said, say, man, y'all need to try to get y'all governor to sign that. So, okay, and they wasn't interested in that. So I just say one day, I'm calling the governor's office. He's going to tell me something. I'm calling. So I called the governor's office, and they connected me to a lady that I met that's over the criminal justice department, and right now I just can't call her name, but she said, well, Robert, how you doing? Because she had been out to the ranch when we had a conference out there. She said, how you doing? Good. She said, what do you need? What do you need? I say, House Bill 43, testing it. She said, Robert, I'm familiar with this bill. He said, from conception, I thought that was a good bill. She said, I'm going to be with the governor this weekend, and I'm going to tell him that you need him to sign that bill. Monday morning, he signed that bill. So it's in effect right now. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. And this is where I would like to get you all support. When they test the inmates, if they have AIDS and he's coming home to his wife, they cannot tell the wife. Why would he tell her? He's been waiting for some sex for 10 years. No, they see, no, they not. And see, they say that you cannot discuss a person's health history, the law. But now, when he get out of prison, he loses right to vote. They send the credit bureau that he just got out of prison. He lose other rights. Why can't he have someone make sure that the wife and girlfriend know? And see, that's how they spread AIDS, and it's another form of genocide. Okay.
Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial complex. Now we have the prison-industrial complex.
Right.
All across Texas. I mean, over the years, I've been seeing them building all these big prisons and people working 25 cents an hour in sweatshop conditions. If you want to comment on that.
Well, I mean, it's part of genocide, part of racism, and it's just a whole bunch of issues. But see, the state right now financially cannot continue to incarcerate all these inmates. See, it's the cost is too much right now. See, so this is the reason why I feel that they're going to listen to what I'm going to have to say. And here's another thing that I'm going to suggest to the governor when I sit down and talk to him, is that, okay, it costs a couple $1,000s a month, they say, and I don't know where this cost come from, to incarcerate an inmate. Okay, now, when you let him out, you give him $50. Say, here, $50. When you go see your parole officer, he gonna give you $50. In most cases, you was a drug addict, so you burn bridges just everywhere. Family members, friends, and everywhere. You burn bridges. So now you're free. You got to come back and live with somebody. Now, you ain't got no money. You ain't got no money. Where you gonna go? And then you got to pay a parole fee every month. So you're gonna have to find something you can steal or something. But if you take that inmate and you put them in a program and say, okay, you got to be drug free. Here's some requirements. You got to take a trade, and we'll give you $350 a month. Now, as long as you do the things that you should do, stay out of trouble, go to job training program or whatever you're in, we will send you $350 a month. Now, if 70% of them going back, it would be to the state advantage to give him $350 a month to stay out of trouble instead of paying additional $1,700. See, and to me that makes sense. You have less crime. But see, these are the kind of issues that these folks is about themselves and about making more money. It ain't about, what's right. See, if it was about what's right, we wouldn't have a lot of problems that we have today.
You mentioned the coalition between power and black churches and money being sent south and swing elections. Why? It seems like a sellout to me.
It is.
I'm just
It
being
is.
honest.
It is. I agree.
But why? What's the mentality?
Because it's been a tie for years to the power structure. And they got to know that they're selling the vote. But see, a lot of people just want to be in the company of rich people. Yeah, and they want to be friends with them and all that kind of stuff. And see, and they sell their community out. And a lot of these people are supposed to be religious, God-fearing people. They're selling their community out.
They do that with political consultants too.
Right. This young.
Well, no, I mean, this is another thing what he was saying about the churches, it has a lot to do with the faith-based initiative, where they actually took that money to build those large mega churches, so they had to, they got to dance to who brought the money to them as well, with the faith-based initiative.
See, right now, if you got a big old pretty building, you get more people on Sunday, and you make more money, In many cases, these churches have become a business and not a house of God. But I think this young lady here.
My question is really not related precisely, except it's on the national level. How much association do you think there is between racism and all the problems that President Barack Obama has had?
Oh, man. It's about racism. But I tell black people that if they is racist against the president, what y'all think about what they think about you all? Shit, they more racist against black people because we the one out here suffering. But President Obama is in the White House. We out here, and then when you look at what y'all should do sometime, just ride through the black community. Just ride. How many of y'all like dogs? I have a dog. How many of y'all have a dog? See, y'all will feel sorry for the dogs in South Dallas and places. They walk around with their head down. They looking for something to eat. Yeah. See, they even do the dogs bad in this city. Oh, yeah. Right. But just like the people are poor, if you have a choice to feed your dog or your children, you're going to feed your children. And so you go, like your lady say, you go dump your dog. And they go dump them on Wheatland Road, close to Skyline Ranch, too. Yeah, they dump them.
In Pleasant Grove.
And see, when them pit bulls were so popular, and, everybody walking around with a pit bull, but when the economy changed and people got poor, that pit bull, they just turned them loose. Yeah. So.
Well, I want everyone to have equal everything. I taught in DISD about 21 years, and it was very difficult. I was out in Pleasant Grove, and I had so many children that really needed help.
That's right.
And it was awful, and we didn't get it. I didn't get an administration, and we had several superintendents that came and went, and I had a hard time fighting. And I really cared about all my kids and did everything I could do. But a lot of them got in trouble, serious trouble. I'm sure some of them are in prison, no offense. But, and their parents would, if they had parents or broken home, they just weren't supportive. And we do need parental help. And do you talk to Mike Miles? Do you work with him?
I had a reception when he first came to town, and we tried to give him some advice. And he was not interested.
Not interested.
He was not interested.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I should.
But the power structure brought him to town. See, them Rylands and places, them people there is the one that brought him to town.
Yeah,
See, and then when you talk about Ryland is the one that brought payday lending to Dallas. He's the one that brought payday lending. Right. See, and the preachers was against that. They was against that, but they took his check. They took And then, you know, a lot of them preachers don't like me too. But they know not to say nothing, but they mumble. But when I come around them, it's like I'm the bishop. Yeah, I'm like, how you know, Mr. Pitre? You all right? Good. Yeah. Because they know I'm going to tell them what it is. Yeah.
I have a question. Was there ever a time or ever a mayor of this city that did a better job than here? Was there ever a mayor of the city that did an okay job? Was there ever a time in the city's history that they had better management or did more for people?
Well, Wes Wise was a good mayor.
Wes Wise.
Right. And Ron Kirk did a fairly decent job. Fairly decent, yeah. I'd say fairly decent. He was fairly, because we had, it's some things that he was able to do to help the black community. Now, they gave a lot of stuff away now. See, but the deal is, the power structure is what run this city. See, the power structure. I mean, if y'all continue to let the power structure win, they're going to make and they get it through the bond programs. When whoever come in mayor, let's clean our house. We got some land over here, let's give it over here, let's donate it over here, and all kinds of stuff happens. So, do we continue to let this happen? But if anyone have any suggestions about let's making the state of Texas accountable, and let's make sure that the inmates are being tested, and if they have AIDS or HIV, that say like my grandmother said, women need to know. Right. See. Right. So. Right. And I really enjoyed, being invited here, and I hope you don't mind. I'd like to do something at Skyline Ranch. I'd like to do something at Skyline Ranch too. Yeah. All right. Sounds good to me. see, and here's the thing. See, I'm colorblind. See, now I see colors, I don't know colors. So I'm colorblind, so I don't have no problem with nationalities or ethnicities. I don't have no problem with that. If I'm looking at your heart. See, yeah.
Right.
Mr. Pitre, I want to thank you for your presentation. We're going to take a 2-minute break here and bring back the podium so people don't feel too scared.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Now you can eat.
Oh, okay. I'd like to have some more of that tea too. Well, thank you.
We on? Okay, now it's your turn to talk. Who wants to be first? You want to be first? No? Oh.
Get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
Well, the meeting is chaos. Hear ye, hear ye. Excuse me. Thank you. Mr. Pitre, I thought this was the second of 2 presentations here that transcend all of the silly little issues of right and left. What we need in this country and in this world is to come to compromise and agreement on issues that we can all realize transcend all the petty little issues of right and left. And I've used the illustration of all of us, all of humanity, being roosters in a cockfight, half of us with a razor on our left ankle and the other half on the right ankle, slaughtering each other, focused on the one trying to kill us, basically, not realizing that all the layers up above, people are betting on us and cheering and saying, oh, my rooster did better than yours, and another guy's outside heating up the barbecue to roast our butts. Now, that's what's happening in this world, and the more that we focus on these petty little issues, the more we get slaughtered, and life is going down in this country. You know, ancient Egypt lasted for 5,000 years. Our 270 or so are like 4.8% of that. And they did it because they had national laws. You know, who cares that, for instance, Ma'at, a goddess, and the priest said, made the statement, always speak the truth to everyone. That became a national law. Always treat everyone in a kindly manner. That became a national law. And those things lived by those Egyptians for 5,000 years transcend every bit of Christianity that I see in this world today, and of Judaism, and of any other religion. Those people had the most prosperous and happy nation for all those years, until, of course, immigration, then revolution, and they were gone. We need to come to agreement on things that we can give a little and take a little. There's always a compromise on a successful agreement. We had statements last week that a president is right if he does the right thing to violate the Constitution. I say to hell with that. If we can't come to an agreement as people on issues we can agree upon, if we get so focused on the little petty issues, which are not petty, I mean, like abortion, both sides have equally strong reasoning behind it. A woman has the right to her life, and yet so does that unborn child that's a living human being. And I don't know how to answer that one. But nevertheless, that is a tiny issue compared to these larger issues like putting in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's a deadly issue for freedom in this world. We need to focus on the issues that we can all agree upon, and we all need to realize what the international banking system, starting with the Rothschilds back centuries ago, is in this world. You cannot have a war without the bank funding that war. And that banking system funded both Stalin and Hitler and played them off against each other. The banking system, like in Iceland, people by the thousands surrounded their Congress and battered on pots and pans and drove them all out. The entire Congress, the entire government held their own public elections again and elected new people and started criminally prosecuting those criminals, the bankers. We need to do that. Another issue upon which we can all agree is the drug trade. The largest drug traders in this world are the Defense Intelligence Agency of the United States of America and the CIA. And Bush's Zapata Oil Company was used as an importing mechanism for drugs because the crews would go out there. They were not offshore, so nobody, there was no immigration to look at when they came back in. The boats would come in, deliver the drugs to the platforms, and then they'd bring them in, and they got in free. Corpses were sent in from Vietnam, slit open, gutted, filled with drugs, sewn back up. That's right. They announced that on the news that they found a corpse coming back from Vietnam in San Francisco, and then the FBI jumped in. You never heard another word. A friend of mine worked in Mississippi in the Navy, at the naval base there, and they were unloading these aluminum caskets from Vietnam, and they dropped one, it broke open, there was no corpse in it, but it was filled with drugs. Our defense intelligence, we need to look at these larger issues and agree upon them, and we can't come to a total agreement on everything, so we need to compromise enough to move forward on something rather than get bogged down with these emotional issues. Turn that off, please. And third thing that I think we need to address, all of these drugs, all of these diseases that you have very ably addressed are created in American laboratories. I was told in 1974 by a CIA agent that World War III would be in the 80s. It would not be nuclear, it would be biological, and it would be with the intent to eliminate black Africa in the subcontinent of India, and he was addressing AIDS. I have written down in another little pocket notebook the patent number for AIDS taken out, for the cure for AIDS. It has silver in it, taken out by the people who took out the patent for AIDS here in the United States. I cured a cat of feline AIDS, blood test before and after with colloidal silver, nanoparticle silver. So put that in your minds. It'll cure a lot of stuff. I could go on and on and on about this, but the key issue is we're all roosters in a cockfight. We're all being slaughtered and they're just licking it up. And if you go to Wikipedia, Georgia Guidestones, look up their premises that they have put on those guidestones. Maintain the earth at a sustainable population of under 500 million. That means 7 billion murders they have planned for us, folks.
Okay, who's next? There has to be a next. Madam Chair. 5 minutes.
Are we done? Years ago I was working with a radio talk show host in New Mexico, and one of his guests who had come on was Dr. Boyd Graves, Professor Boyd Graves. I've personally spoken to Boyd Graves. Boyd Graves is a gay black professor who did some research and tracked down a special cancer virus program that our Defense Department worked on, which was the creation of AIDS. And Boyd Graves affirmed that it was a race-specific disease designed especially for the black race. And I just want to bring it to this group because this group does not like going into conspiratorial areas. There's documentation on this, folks, and it's out there. And we don't like to face the fact that somebody deep in our government has really done Hitler one better. And that's a very uncomfortable thing to look at and look in the mirror. And if we don't have a bit of shame when we say I am an American, we really should. I'm a little bit different than a lot of the Malthusian crowd. I did my own analysis and I figured out that this old Earth traveling through the solar system and universe likely has a carrying capacity of at least 38 billion. Yes, the technology has to change. Right now, we could fit all 7 billion in Texas and even give them a little bit of room. LBJ Freeway would be a mess, but we really have no idea. We think because population demographics, because everybody gets loaded into the cities, that that we're overpopulated. Yeah, we are in that area. I can go up and fly in a plane and I can see 90, 95, 98% everywhere it's just barren. There's nobody there. And everything about what's gone on here has been done wrong. If you really want to reduce population, make people prosperous. Bring up their standard of living. They're going to be fat and happy, and they're going to be happy with 2 children, and 2 plus 2.3 or whatever it is, the replacement rate. It doesn't help Dallas to have South Dallas be impoverished. Every time you bring up any area of Dallas, you're improving it immensely throughout the entire city. I'm impressed with some of the numbers Robert was giving here for how much the city of Dallas was getting from the auction, and I mean, there's nothing going back. I am so happy to have you here.
Okay, who's next? Debbie, next. Sure, next. We're running out of people. Come on up here.
I'm slow getting up here. I had knee replacement done. But I really appreciate having Mr. Pitre here, and I hope from time to time that he's able to come back or we're able to visit with him, because we tend to see only one side of the story unless we've actually lived in that. And for the issue of, I guess my comments are mostly on the topic of racism itself. The American Psychiatric Association now defines racism as mental illness, and poverty is defined as one of the contributing factors to mental illness now. So maybe we could add some more lines up here having to do with mental health and mental illness too, because a lot of the prison system are there because of mental issues. The idea that people ought to just pull themselves up by the bootstraps. I saw a comment in the Dallas Morning News recently that said nobody pulls themselves up totally by their bootstraps. Everybody has help. And some have had more than others. And so that's a myth, that people ought to just pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I think we have to be careful too that we don't speak in generalities of the other side. One of the things, while I agree totally with the slant of Mr. Pitre's presentation, I hated to hear you talk about the black preachers, because I've respected them and admired so much what they do in the community. And the children, somebody asked me one time, why don't you speak about your experiences of education in Dallas? And I said, because I can't do it without breaking down crying. It's so hard. And, you hear that, you kind of hear this vague thing that there's abuse and there's all kinds of things that have been done to the children, the black community. But until you're there for an extended period of time, you see kids that are brought to school that have been standing out in the rain since 7 o'clock in the morning to catch the bus. When they get to school, they talk about the brain they saw on the sidewalk from a shooting. They come to school and find a dead body on the school. This happens, and this is, you say it perpetuates itself, because these children see this and they grow up with this, and that's what they know. I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. I was interested, I think that, I really think we have to watch ourselves, though, in speaking of generalities, and I hope that Mr. Pitre feels that part of Dallas is really wanting to deal with this problem. I think Dallas County was part of what Dallas County elected voted for the president twice, and so that's a hopeful sign. We need to keep hope alive. And while I was at Singing Hills Community, I had some wonderful people that I worked with. The principal that I dearly love, she had marched with Dr. King, and I'll never forget her. She was all the things that I saw, and those women that work with those children they're just saints, actually, all the things they do for those kids. They're very strong people and very wonderful people. When the state cut monies from education, you could see what was going on in the economy. I guess I'm beginning to ramble a little bit. I'm jumping from issue to issue, but you could see that for a while, kids would stay in one area. But when the economy got bad, you started seeing a move from one school to another because they would lose their facilities where they were living. And what else do I want to say? That's all I want to say is that speaking in generalities of blacks talking about whites or whites talking about blacks doesn't help. I think that tends to get into emotional issues too much. And if we stay focused on the facts and the issues, it will help eliminate this racism, like the issue of the septic tank. What can we do about that issue? And that's why I think it would be helpful to have, because I thought all this that was going on in South Dallas was good for the benefit of the community, and I think that a lot of people intend for it to be good. But when issues like this are brought up, that's where we can focus on something, specific to deal with. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Have we got a next? We're getting near out of time, but Susie, you coming up here? All right. What's your cable?
On myself. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Yes.
Excellent. I want to see you come back. And I love the idea of holding a bigger discussion meeting at your branch. And what I would envision and what I would like to see is something along the lines of the Moral Monday movement. I don't know how we can bring it together, but I've heard so many people talking about it recently, and I think that perhaps we start with simple issues that affect and correct this path. We've got to deal with economic blight. One way to start would be to get behind having sewer lines put in, okay? That's a very obvious illustration of what is happening with the incredible wealth that we have here in Dallas County. Now, I'm not always on the right side of politics, okay? I don't always support the right people. I own that. I support challengers. And I've been sort of called out for it. And even at the Democratic Convention, called out, slapped at the Democratic Convention. Okay. But it's simple to me. It's not, as you mentioned, black, white, right, wrong, left, right, the cockfight. I love your analogy there. What are we fighting over? Who's going to be first to the barbecue? Or who's going to be next to the barbecue? We've got to find a way to come together. We need a strong statement issue. And when we tackle that statement, then we move on to the next. I am so proud of you for what you have accomplished. I want to find a way to join that. Thank you very much.
Robert, from what you have said here, I see you as a man of action. Perhaps you'll appreciate, I traveled over 1,000 miles to get to a lecture, the first lecture given by DEA agent Celerino Castillo, a public lecture that he gave, and Michael Rupert, former LAPD narcotics officer who confronted John Deutsch at Locke High School and made history. Rupert referred to it as urban renewal, you bring drugs into the area, you devalue the property, then the big money powers, the banks, they can go and they can buy it for pennies on the dollar. It's a program. It's a devastating program of plundering humanity to do these things. And we're supposed to be a country of laws. And I would certainly like us to once again be a country of laws. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Have we got a next? We had a next? You're going to be a next? Well, I know you want to say something. I know you have this, it's in you.
Mr. Pitre, you know, we have met before. Yeah, I'm not going to get hanging up in the lines. And I thank you for coming and making the presentation. And much of what you said is reality. We've got to find some way to bridge the gap that exists among people. And I think one of the things is in this country, it's a class system. And if you're not wealthy, you don't really count. We use race as a tool to divide people and prevent them from getting together and making the right decision. And so we tell one group you're better than the other, and they believe it. And that's what makes that decision so hard to go. You look at the history of the United States, there have been times after slavery where working class whites tried to get, and they came up with something to divide us. So that's a reality. The problem, I guess, is how to get it running beyond it. And a lot of the things you said, I've shared some of the things of you that read my master thesis. I criticized some black ministers. Some black ministers do good, others don't do too good. And it's been a history in Dallas where they go give black ministers money and then they deliver the vote the way they want to go. And sometime we got to have integrity in all of them. I just completed a Grace Presbyterian meeting on Friday, and we had an issue session where we talked about issues. And you'd be surprised, I sat quiet. I didn't say very much on that issue, on that session. But I listened to what people were saying, and I was the only African American in the group. We had about 7 different groups, so it's not that many African Americans that's on Grace Presbyterian Council. But at any rate, I listened to what they were saying, and they talked about the same issues you talked about. How do we deal with the problem? And one of the things is inequities in income. That was a big thing. Inequities in education. That was another big thing. The prison system. Everything was discussed, and I saw no disagreement among the people who were there. And they were not, I don't think a Latino was there. It was just me as an African American. And we went to another session dealing with leadership and another one actually dealing with racial ethics and why we don't have more in the Presbyterian Church in this situation. But we do have work cut out for it. I can't be totally negative. If I become totally negative, I'm demobilized and I can't. So I have to be hopeful that something's going to happen, because November 4th almost knocked my hope out, but I think I've regained it. We got to have hope in spite of it, and we got to find ways to work with it. And the big thing is we've got to recognize that we are all in the same boat, and we're one group eventually going to hurt us all. And even I've got some of the the multi-billionaire people have recognized that we got to do something different in this country, or they aren't going to make the money they're making. When we can't buy the stuff that they make, they're going to be we're the largest purchasing people in the world. And when we can't buy much at the minimum wage. And so those are some things we need to work with. I think it's some real issues, as my good friend here said, that we need to come to some kind of agreement. And if you look at history, big ideas didn't start with a large group of people. It was a few group of people that kept on working until things change. So we all got to think about that, and I know this group here, if we had large enough group think the way I think we think here, we don't all agree on everything. My good friend and I, we agree sometimes, we don't. But we like each other, we respect each other. We respect each other. So I think that's what we got to do and learn to do, is respect each other, listen more, and perhaps talk a little less. Thank you.
Well, are we out of next? Is there any more next? Yeah, come on up here.
Again, way back in ancient Egypt, there was a pharaoh by the name of Amenhotep IV, which in history, as I have read, was the first man in our known civilization to teach his people there was one God only, and that God was love. Now, we don't realize this, but when we say Amen at the end of a prayer, we are doing that in honor of Amenhotep IV. Now, I think these are very important things to realize. The Creator has always been here for a very long time. And so wherever humanity has been, those principles have been available. And there have been those other people, like those who are consumed with greed and lust for power, which seems to control this world, try to keep smashing the best of humanity. And the best of humanity comes from one principle, and that's infinite love. And to give you an example, which I think I'm very grateful for, with my father, who was unfortunately an alcoholic and swore a lot. He knew every four-letter word in the book, but he was a very loving man. And when I was a little bitty kid, we moved from Georgia when I was 2 years old. He had this black man who worked for him. His name was, as I remember, was Rufus. And my dad bought him a shotgun so he could go hunting with him. And they loved to do that together. And one day, Dad's dog was sniffing around and fell down a hole. And it was an old abandoned well, and the boards on top had rotted, and he was way down to the bottom of this well, okay. And my dad was just heartbroken. He loved that dog. And Rufus said, and you know, the accents of back then and so forth, he said, "Now, Mr. Bob, you just don't worry." He says, "You stay here and you talk to Fanny, and I'm going to go get a rope, and we're going to get him out, or get her out," female dog. And so he brought this rope and made a little noose and dropped it down there and told Fanny to put her head in it, and finally she did, and he pulled her out. And then Fanny, of course, proceeded to give them both a very well-needed face wash, according to her. Beautiful story. I love it. I've remembered it all of my life. And then when we moved from Georgia to Florida when I was 2 years old, there was another man working for our family at the time by the name of George James, who was also a black man. And he moved down to Florida with my family and set up his life down there. And he was the most loving man. When I was just a little bitty kid, and we were a few blocks from the train station, and I'd hear the whistle. I loved trains. So he'd scoop me up and put me in the basket on the handlebars of his bicycle and pedal me down there and hold my hand, and we'd watch the train come and go. Little one-track station. And then one time I was chopping bamboo and cut off the end of my thumb. It was hanging by the skin, and he came running down, and he picked me up and ran me to the garage and folded it back, maybe hold it like that, and made me stick my hand in a can of kerosene, which the idea scared me at first, but it stopped hurting just like that. And he said, "Keep it in there for a half an hour." And I said, "I sure will." I took it out. It was all sealed, a little bit of blood, and he put a Band-Aid this way and that way and said, "Just don't bump it." George James eventually became a Methodist minister there in Florida. He really did so well for himself, and I think my dad's conveying to him in his actions the love that he had for all mankind, which I think my father did, made a great impression upon me. And I'm sorry, I love that man to this day, almost more than my own brother, because my own brother was a big, tall, 6'3" person who was a bully to me. And George loved me dearly and took care of me, and I appreciate that. So I think that the greatest thing that we have on this earth is to turn our consciousness to the presence of infinite love and then let it flow through us and express it to all mankind. And tackle these big issues, because those people who control these big issues do not know love. And I would suggest we all go listen to some of the recordings of Mark Passio on the internet. He's talking about the Satanism that pervades all of these ruling people, and it goes far beyond the religious idea of that. It creates people who think of all the rest of us as nothing more valuable than clay, animated clay. And that's why they don't care about killing millions of us in warfare, disease, famine, pestilence, all of that. All of those are planned.
Well, we're running out of time, so I guess I'm the last man standing. I want to thank our speaker. I think he did a terrific job tonight. You want to get up here? Be fast.
I will be very fast. Okay, we're talking about how we can all get together, and I believe that action starts like a ripple of a pebble in a lake, and it goes outwards. And this is my first meeting here, and I really enjoyed it. And there's another meeting tomorrow night with the Dallas Green Alliance, and we're talking about what we can do in Dallas. And we have an election coming up in May for over half of the city council, and we can turn the city around by getting rid of the powers that be that want to suppress the actions and the will of the people. And if anyone is interested in attending, it is tomorrow from 3 to 5 at 2814 Canton Street in Deep Ellum. And you can contact Claudia Meyer. She ran for council for District 3 last time around, and her telephone number is 972-816-1005, and she requested that we try to get as diverse a group as we can. So young, old, black, white, Latino, Asian, gay, straight, whatever. Open arms. Everybody's welcome to come. And that's it. Thanks, and thanks for having me.
All right, I guess I'm the last man standing. Again, I want to thank our speaker for doing a terrific job here tonight. I thought he got us all thinking, and thinking things we hadn't thought before, I think, in some respects. It shows Dallas for some of the things we didn't know existed, and that, to me, is grateful, and things that need to be corrected, and I'd like to continue with you and work in that direction. Overall, I think that there may be something to remember. You know, it's a kind of a class warfare. I'm from the railroad industry. I worked it for 20 years, and we used to have 5 people working for everyone that's on pension. They got rid of the caboose for everybody in the engine. Now we have 5 people on pension for everyone that's working. So it hasn't worked out so well. And it's in society, since the Industrial Revolution, machines replace people. Machines don't pay taxes. People pay taxes. And this has been going on, and this is going on here. And today in our country today, we have 25 million people out of work. I don't know if you realize it. And our balance of payments is in bad shape. And the country is in decline. We know that. Winston Churchill once said the Americans can always be counted on to do the right thing after they try everything else. And America is on the decline. Our jobs went overseas. We can't support our infrastructure. We need to put tariffs on corporations, not countries, where every product imported will have a tariff equal to the difference in labor and environmental costs. Then corporations would have the option to produce things here to sell here, as it would be far more economical to do so. Then we could take action to reduce the hours of work per day, say to 6 hours a day instead of an 8-hour day without reducing the pay per day. We could change the Adamson Law and the Fair Labor Standards Act to increase overtime to double time to outweigh the cost of fringe benefits. Then the manager would make a determined decision for profit to hire more people instead of working existing people longer hours. 25 million people could be reemployed full-time, making them taxpayers instead of tax trainers. We could bring our country out of the doldrums we're in. But before any of this can happen, we have to reduce the influence of money on congressional elections. As challengers to incumbents have received absolutely nothing in campaign contributions for the past 14 years, and as corporations controlling Congress is by definition fascism, Congress needs to act to instruct the Federal Communications Commission to require the media to provide sufficient free airtime in general elections, the last 90 days of a general election, so then the incumbent and the challenger would have both have free airtime. Congressmen would be able to keep their money and obtain free airtime. They will vote for it. The end result would be a Congress that represents the people instead of those who are currently buying their vote in Washington. Then legislation can be passed to level the playing field on corporate power, improve working conditions for the people Congress is supposed to represent, and have a general improvement in the United States economy without fear of the dollar being thrown off its pedestal. That's what we're into now. So that's what I think needs to happen. I think that we need to listen to people like Mr. Pitre here. We got to act on what he has to say. I thank you. You're up. And Mr. Pitre now gets a comment on a comment that's made here and close this meeting.
Well, I just would like to just thank you all for inviting me to be part of your organization. I think it's very important that we come together as human beings that are trying to do what's right. We're not about trying to make money and get rich and be above everybody else. It's about what we could do to help others. And our knowledge and understanding count. It is important that we be a part of what can make changes in this community, in this city, in this world, and we count. And I just want to thank you all because, I mean, I really felt very comfortable being here, and I think it's, and I think that God sent me out here to talk to you all. And I try to do everything that God tells me to do. So I think this is the right place for me to be tonight. And let's establish a relationship and let's see what we can do. Thank you.
Okay, that's about it for tonight. We have to be out of here by 9 o'clock. They close then. And we retire down to Starbucks down at the corner there. Our speaker's welcome there. We'll buy him coffee. And we'll carry on the conversation if you like. And, oh, it's up to you. Anyway, you're welcome to come down. We usually go to down have coffee there for a little while. And if you like that, you're all welcome. So thank you. And we'll see you next week.
This is William, your videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below or like us or follow us and get notices